It is always a tradition here on this channel to talk about the Game Awards, or at least to make fun of it, but it's not usual for me to talk about it before the show is even on. The Game of the Year nominees gained a little bit of controversy, and it's not because of Wukong. Black Myth Wukong is nominated for Game of the Year in the 2024 Game Awards, which somehow led to a bunch of journals making articles talking about how Wukong is the lowest rated Game of the Year nominee. They also make excuses for it, saying that Wukong has a score of 81. Wait, 81? That's not a bad overall score for a Game of the Year. But apparently some fans are unhappy with the 2024 nominees. Yeah, they're pointing their fingers at the Elden Ring DLC, not Wukong. I guess you missed that part, right? I don't know why the Elden Ring DLC is here, and I especially don't know why the Final Fantasy VII Remake Continuation Rebirth is there. No amount of swimsuit Tifa and Arif will dismiss how utterly pointless stretching the 7th game to that degree is, especially when it's shackled only to the PS5 at the time of writing. As for my Game of the Year pick, Metaphor. I want Metaphor to win, but Astrobot is not a bad candidate too, and Wukong is just fine. The Game Awards will be on by December 12th. Unfortunately, I will be working at that time, so I can't react to it live, but I am hoping that it will at least be a fun cringe fest and not a boring one like the last two. Whoops, I forgot to mention one of the interesting Game of the Year nominees of this year. It's this little indie game called Balatro. I honestly have no expectations for this game, but I heard that the game is absolutely fantastic. So I bought the game on Play Store because it's totally playable on your phone, which absolutely trumps the rest of the Game of the Year contenders here. And to my surprise, I was instantly hooked. Balatro is basically roguelike video poker, and it managed to scratch the poker itch that I've been having without the needs of going online gambling. The gameplay is so simple and yet so invigorating. The fact that I bought the game on the Play Store and I can play it completely offline is a huge plus for it. As meh as CONCORD turned out. Sorry, did you say meh? On CONCORD? That game is beyond what I would describe meh. A meh game doesn't fail that spectacularly. I'd give it Game of the Year over something simple like, say, Sea of Stars or Balatro, even if I like those games more. You would give CONCORD, a multiplayer first-person hero shooter game that you can't even play anymore, over Sea of Stars, a phenomenal indie RPG, and Balatro, an invigorating poker roguelike, both of which you can play right now. You are delusional. Simple games can be fun too, but they're not on the same level as really complex games. 3D Space Cadet is a more viable Game of the Year contender than CONCORD will ever be, and I say that with zero irony. Don't worry, we're just getting started in console peasantry. This console peasant wants us to imagine something that most of us don't even have to. Imagine not having a PS5. Well, I don't have to imagine because I don't actually have a PS5. I have the DualSense controller. I adore it. I think it's one of the best controls that Sony has ever put out, but not a PS5. Their games are not worth buying a console on, unlike the PS4, which I bought for Persona 5, and then my brother got the PS4, so I bought it again for God of War Data Boy. Both games are still infinitely better than any of the current PS5 exclusives. Sorry, Astrobot, you're great, but you're still not worth a PS5. As for the other games in that collage, Black Myth Wukong is on PC, and I'm not that interested in the game. Helldivers 2 is also on PC, and it's a multiplayer game. I'm not interested in multiplayer games. I want a proper single-player experience. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, on the other hand, I have no idea why this game exists. People love Remake 7. I didn't. I think they stretch it way too long. This game just reinforces that idea, and it's definitely not worth buying a PS5 over. But that said, I can't hate the remakes too much, because we do have plenty of new Rule 34s with the characters. I heard it even went so far as the Italian Parliament. Good on you, Tifa. Keep it up. The point is, I don't want a PS5. My laptops are still good enough for what I'm doing. But this peasant thinks that I need more than what I got. Well, this is quite the claim. This dumbass peasant made this stupid comparison between the PS5 Pro GPU and the RTX 3090, while pointing at the many things that the PS5 Pro GPU is better at compared to the RTX 3090. These metrics are totally pointless for most people who want to compare performances. You cannot judge how a game performs based on the core clock speed, the manufacturing process, the teraflops, all these. Oh, by the way, the 36.1 teraflops metric was not true. It was actually around 16 teraflops when Digital Foundry opened it. There is one metric that you totally ignored, and that is the cores, or the pipelines. The RTX 3090 has way more cores than the PlayStation 5 Pro. At this point, this is a hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby situation. PS5 Pro evolves, unlike the PC that is static, where you have to keep buying GPUs. What? That statement is so idiotic that I don't even know where to begin. First off, the PS5 Pro doesn't evolve in any significant way. It doesn't evolve that much from the original PS5, and you cannot evolve it in terms of hardware because the hardware is pre-baked and you can't upgrade it. Second, the ability to buy GPUs is precisely why PC gaming is not static and it will be able to evolve. Console gaming will have to wait until Sony releases the next version of the PlayStation, like the PS6 or maybe even the PS5 Pro Plus. I don't really want to give them ideas, but at this point, it might be the route that they're taking. Moving on from console peasantry that mostly comes from PlayStation, let's talk about the company that owns PlayStation and how they want to own other companies. This news got a lot of people panicking, and I can see why. Sony is in talk to buy Kadokawa, a major media powerhouse behind a lot of Japanese media, including From Software, the developers behind the Soulsborne games. Honestly, I don't really know what to make of this news. I don't like Sony, and I also don't like Kadokawa. I remember that Kadokawa caused a huge uproar for ruining Kemono Friends back in 2017-2018 by firing their own director because he made a thank you video using their intellectual property. Regardless, I'll just wait and see what they're gonna do with it and see if the accusation actually happens. In the meantime, let's tackle some dumb takes. True Souls fans own the PlayStation. End of discussion. You can't just end a discussion on a baseless claim like that. Souls games sell more on PC than consoles. True. Or at least for Elden Ring, if I recall correctly. It still sucks that they might pull new Souls games from Xbox if this acquisition goes through. Wait, what? Where did you get the claim that they're gonna pull games off of stores? If they actually end up buying Kadokawa and therefore From Software, why would they want to have them make less money by pulling their games off of the stores of their competitors? How much did Demon's Souls sell on PC? I don't understand why you asked that question. Demon's Souls is one game. Bloodborne is another. That's 2 out of Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Sekiro, and Elden Ring. 7 From Software Souls games. Also, Demon's Souls can be emulated through RPCS3 with the original PS3 version, and it's totally playable, which means Bloodborne is the only game that's still stuck on a PS4 where the emulation is still unfinished. So we PC gamers have 6 Souls games to get through. I don't know why they're booing you. Because they're wrong. You literally cannot play all Souls games on PC or Xbox. It doesn't really matter because Demon's Souls and Bloodborne are 2 Souls-like games that can be experienced way later after finishing the other 5. Also, legitimately, please, sail the seas all you want. Jeez, even when talking about Sony acquisitions, the fanboys still manage to make dumb takes. Here's another one involving one of the most anticipated games of this year. Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl is the latest game in the Stalker series that I haven't had a chance to play yet, but plenty of people do, and they're complaining that the game is buggy and janky. That's just your typical Stalker experience. And it's amazing that this game managed to be developed by the team after their home country, Ukraine, is going through a lot of stuff, to put it lightly. This person thinks that Stalker 2 is not that bagger of a game because it only has 147 people in the game at the time of the screenshot, which is an inaccurate metric right now because this person took a screenshot of 105,000 people playing in-game. Game Pass stench prevails. What the hell is that supposed to mean? 8 billion PCs in the world, but only 150,000 bought the game. PC gaming is definitely on the decline, that's for sure. That is some of the flimsiest argument that you use to make that case. There are billions of PC in the world, including laptops, but do you seriously think that most of them are used for gaming? You do realize that real life exists and people use PC for all sorts of stuff? Like me, using one to write a script and making a video talking about your console peasant brain rot. Not a lot of people use their PC for gaming. Not everyone has a gaming PC that is capable of running Stalker 2. Not everyone who has a gaming PC that can run Stalker 2 wants to run Stalker 2, and they play something else. I don't know what else to say, bro. There are many possible explanations why 8 billion PCs and yet only 105,000 players. It's up to you to accept some dose of reality. One thing that makes Stalker unique is that it's a first-person shooter that is a lot slower and more methodical in its approach. I think it's well designed in that regard, but this person thinks that only good game designs exist. I don't know why you want to make this argument. Bad game design isn't real. It is real. Why do you say it's not? It's a term made by YouTubers who want to justify their petulant whining. I want to believe you, but you haven't provided examples for this point. There's only the experience you want to give players and what you can do to create that experience. Okay, but what happens if that experience is not something that the players get? Because that sounds like bad game design to me. No good or bad game design, only good or bad game designers. That makes no sense. That's like saying no good or bad food, only good or bad chefs. And then the chef craps on my plate and tells me that it's chocolate sundae. This post is very clearly about rhetoric. People who use the term as shorthand for dismissing mechanics instead of saying why they don't like it. You have not provided any concrete example of anyone saying this whatsoever. People seem to think it means I like every game equally. That's what you implied when you said bad game design isn't real. If bad game design isn't real, you might as well say bad games are not real. Or that every game design is good. Sending me a picture of a game I think is bad doesn't change anything. It actually does. It proves that bad game design exists. And you just hate it when people say that, even though they are using it correctly. Moving on from bad game designs, we have the stupid hoopla involving censorship. Guilty Gear is an amazing series of fighting games with colorful, diverse characters and fun and exciting gameplay. Shame that it's acceptable to modern-day censorship. Their latest game, Guilty Gear Strive, has a last-minute update that censors inappropriate angles during the game's photo mode. This was due to the ratings board from Japan that rated the game to 0C, which means the game is for 15+. I guess the developers wanted a lower rating for the game. How appropriate. Bridget is the character that you want to see the underskirts on. That won't trigger a freaking flame war. Regardless of your stance on her or him, I still want to tap that ass. And this game won't let me get on that boy pussy. I mean girl, boy, girl. I'm very horny either way, that's a joke. Regardless, once you get into the underskirts of whatever character you chose or you got too close to them, the game will make the character disappear so you can't see them anymore. I'm not a fan of this change. Let people zoom into their characters however they like and be horny and weird about it however they like, even if that character is of a highly debatable status. While the censorship of Guilty Gear was dumb, what is not dumb is the latest game release from Square Enix that managed to break insane records. You would think that in times of the digital age, something selling insanely well physically would not be possible. But Dragon Quest III 2D HD proved that physical still has a power in this industry, or at least in Japan, where the game sold 821,000 physical copies on the Switch and PlayStation 5. That is insanity. It instantly became the #1 best-selling game in Japan for the whole of 2024, and that's not counting digital sales. Dragon Quest really is that culturally impactful. It is one of the most influential RPG series of all time, or at least in the Japanese culture. But still, to see the sales figure like that for the physical version alone is just downright crazy. I do find it funny that there are more sales on the Switch than on a PS5. It just goes to show you that the Switch is in another league in terms of gaming platforms. Insane if you think about it. Seriously, Square Enix, good for you on this one. I can put aside that Type 1 and 2 nonsense as long as you put out a fantastic game and reimagining of a classic that people love, rather than a pointless remake that doesn't really go anywhere, that is still completely shackled on the PlayStation that you love so much that it totally bombed and you're on the verge of losing money. That's on you, Square Enix. But hey, nice bounce back. And finally, here's a funny hoopla involving what is, in my opinion, a modern classic. NieR Automata remains one of the most surprisingly influential games of the last decade. It just creeps in and suddenly everyone's talking about how amazing it is. And it is amazing. I love this game. There's an anime adaptation of it, which I haven't watched, but there is one aspect from the anime that Yoko Taro would have wanted to cover, but the producers didn't want to. And that is a sex scene between 2B and NieR. Man, that would have been really wild, wouldn't it? Yoko Taro's request was pretty wild, which is in character of him to ask that. I too would love to see a proper canon 2B and NieR sex scene, but as much as I want to see that scene, I do have to admit, it doesn't actually make any sense story-wise. There are some romantic tensions between 2B and NieR throughout the game, but it's never gone to an explicit romance. So them having sex is at best gonna be just a one-night fling when they relieve their tensions, but otherwise, you have to write a whole ass subplot for it. Still, it'd be nice to see, even if it's just a joke or a fantasy or whatever. But the Aniplex producer said the most nonsensical reason. NieR wouldn't do that. What do you mean NieR wouldn't do that? Anyone with a crush would absolutely want to have sex with the person they are crushing. If they said otherwise, they are lying. Especially if their crush is one of the most beautifully designed video game characters of the last decade. Maybe even of all time. Yes, there needs to be timing and chemistry, but that can be done by actually giving 2B and NieR a proper romance story and completely distracting them from the whole saving humanity thing. Robot sex all day, why the hell not? It reminds me of that needy streamer overload nymphomaniac ending. And that's all for the video today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to the end, here's the cat. And also huge thanks to all these wonderful sponsors. You are all fantastic. If you want to see your name among these legends, then check out the links below, just $1. And you have supported this channel a lot. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my ABB Show stream channel, link below, go subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.